S&P's up a little more than 1/3% as big tech is firming up into the close. NASDAQ's ripping. Kevin Green joins us for a look at the options. KG, big tech going to be enough to pull us back into the higher end of our range or what?
It appears so, Oliver. I think today is probably the largest option volume on the SPX 0DTE that I've seen in a very long time. The top three traded contracts have traded over 100,000 contracts on the session here. And those contracts that have been targeted is pretty much where we are at right now. The 5440s, or 5840s, 5850-ish strikes are the ones that are really catching a bid. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to try to break above that. You could probably get to 58, 55. That would be the upper end of that range. And maybe we get some additional buyers to step in here, but we're pretty much closer to the upper end of resistance rather than maybe potentially going back over to support. Now, the technical setup right now, if you kind of look at it, we had a nice little, move to the downside yesterday. When you're looking at the close, we opened today a little bit weak, came back, came really close to that 5,800 level, had some buyers stepping in, and that's where we've been catching a bid pretty much ever since here. And that's really how we have been managing these really strong positive days. It's not so much a really great open. It's usually a weak open hitting an area of support and then buyers stepping in, rather than us opening strong and then fading into the day. So I actually like this price action more than what we've seen over the last couple of trading sessions here. But overall, it's actually a really decent day. I would just, once again, be a little bit surprised if we're able to break above that 58, 55-ish area, because you're sitting at around 80 to $90 billion worth of exposure above those levels.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice little pattern to slip and then bounce, find buyers, and continue to hold at least, so you kind of test the strength a little bit and make it through. I do wonder, though, some of the other stuff going on. I mean, the kind of nature of the zero-day options. There was a little bit of action in some of the kind of speculative GameStop meme, DJT. There's some pretty juicy stuff going on in there. Do you see some of that mania creeping back in?
I mean, that mania has actually been around for the last, week, 2 weeks here. Actually, if we're looking at zero DTE options, we haven't really seen that much activity, especially when you're getting over that 100,000 contract level. So maybe there's a little bit more froth or speculation in the market. But if we are having positive speculation in the market, that can drive prices higher. And that's really what we want to see from a broader investing standpoint, the price advances in the market. Now, is it going to be enough for us to really kind of break above these really key areas of resistance? I'm not sure. I think that's going to be more catalyst driven. We have some earnings coming after the close here that could be those catalysts. We have Google and AMD. But yes, you're seeing a lot of you've seen a lot of volatility spikes. DJT was halted earlier in the session here today. The uranium and small nuclear reactor plays, the ACLOs, the SMRs of the world, seeing a lot of flows to the upside.
Yeah, good example.
As well. So it's still there. It's still there. But that does signal risk on for now. This is actually really good. We're not outside of this range that we've been following, but you'd like to see us at least holding that 5,800 and trying to recoup some of the losses that we saw going into the close yesterday and earlier this morning.
Yeah, good call on the nukes, as that's kind of been one of the hotbeds of speculative fervor right now. Oklo going nuts again to $25. All right, so let's talk some stock specifics then, since it seems like that's where most of the action is. The index level kind of seems a little ho-hum right now. How about AMD ahead of the report? What do we got?
Yeah, this is actually going to be an interesting one. So there's a lot of bullish speculation going into this name for this report here, Oliver. You're looking at around a $10.84 expected move. That's if you kind of back out the time value that we're going to have remaining for the rest of the week here. And so you're kind of looking at the upper end of around $176.59 and the lower end of that expected move sitting at around $154.91. You are seeing some positive flows going into the 180 level. So a lot of buyers kind of stepping in there, but that would be a tall order, and you can kind of look on that chart. Once again, that's going to be an area of resistance that we have seen. We had a head and shoulders pattern earlier this year that was setting up where that was pretty much the base of that pattern until we failed. We tried to retest it again, failed, and that could be another area of resistance here in the near term. So you don't have that much wiggle room if you're just trying to go long calls or long puts. This would be a scenario where knowing the IV is relatively high, leveraging any type of put spread strategy or the call spread strategy, depending on if you're bullish or bearish, probably would be a little bit more beneficial, if you will, rather than just going long call, long put, just because the speculation and the call skew right now is very expensive.
Okay, so it's elevated IV, but a little bit more on the bullish side. So kind of, I guess more people are going to want this thing to rally than not. But either way, depending on what view you have, you probably want to have some volatility harvesting component. You want to sell something as part of your trade.
Yeah, and when you're talking about that call side skew, it's really sitting at the 170 and 180 level. That's where you're getting a lot of these buyers stepping in. I mean, the 165s, yeah, you had a little bit of attention today, but 170 to 180 seems to grab a lot of the attention. And going long, just the 180s itself, we have seen some pretty big block orders getting into that. And if you actually have a really good announcement and you're able to break above, I mean, we had that technical level, once again, that green line. If you look across, you got that head and shoulders, you got that attempt once more. I mean, if you break through that from a technical standpoint, you could get some dealers to actually try to cover some risk. This is also a histogram kind of showing you that skew. Downside, not very much. You can see them pretty much on every $10 increments, but on the upside is where you're really seeing a lot of that speculation taking into this into this name right now with that 180 level, pretty much that big gamma wall that it's going to that the stock could be attracted to, but might have a hard time trying to break out in the after-hour session if we actually have a knockout earnings announcement.
All right, and that's according to the market maker move right now, which is about $12. That gamma wall pretty well aligns with that to the upside for the most part, pretty close. I mean, very specifically, maybe off by like $1 or so. But so if we get through 180, then like it's going to take something monstrous, and that would be a huge deal for AMD. If it's weak and it slips, and you're looking for maybe the more patient kind of wait to buy a dip to the point of the kind of where we started about the market buying dips, then maybe it's at that like 150-ish area you got there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say the expected move is sitting at around $10.84 because you got to back out some of the time value. I mean, those options are still going to have time value over the next couple of trading sessions, right? So if you're looking at that upside move, it would sit at around $176, $175, give or take. So there is a little bit of a sweet spot, if you will, between 175 and 180 that kind of gives you a little bit of opportunity if you are a speculator. That's not a recommendation by any stretch of the imagination. It gets you out of that expected move, but also kind of lets you capitalize on the IV crush that could happen after the earnings announcement if it does try to touch or approach that 180 level, which could be, once again, a kind of a tall order here. But this is a stock that's been falling behind when it comes to the performance in the AI space compared to NVIDIA. So this could be a catch-up trade. And we've seen a lot of catch-up trades in this market over the last couple of weeks, as you talked about, with the speculative nature of some of these of these markets, nuclear or even others.
Yeah, and last week we saw some strength in some of the less exciting semiconductors, Texas, Slam, Western Digital, a few kind of earnings ramps there. So maybe AMD will get the same love. Pressure's on them. All right, thanks, KG. Appreciate that.